Hi everyone, it's Kimberly. Welcome back to the channel. I wanted to talk today about toxic relationships along this journey and what are false twin flames and what's the purpose of this journey and why are so many encountering false twins, okay? Because if you guys have watched my previous videos on this subject matter, you will know that I don't really believe in that perspective. It seems really odd and off to me. There's no such thing as a false twin. You might have falsely identified a twin, but it's not a false twin. There's no false anything in your path. Everything that you encounter is a vibrational match for you, and everything in your path is setting you up to move forward, propel, advance, evolve. So there's no false in that. And so essentially what you're saying when you say the term false twin is you're saying I have misperceived what I thought this label was for something else. And it's essentially like you're trading label for label, which is so silly to me as well. So I'm all about just releasing the label altogether. But let's talk about this. So I want to talk about, because a lot of people, when they talk about their false twins, and however we want to call that, I think at the root of it, you're saying it's someone that I identified having deep connection with, that it wasn't really deep connection, but it was something that was like a catalyst for change for me, or it was a karmic lesson or something that I needed to learn, or something that helped me line up with myself, or something that's propelling me to my true twin. And so often those relationships, or often along this journey just in general, we encounter toxic relationships, especially because you're here to heal the unhealed parts of yourself. And the whole point of being on this journey and even having a resonance with the term twin flame is so that you can raise consciousness. You're here at this time on this path, watching this video, learning these things, identifying with these terms because of only one thing. Not so that you can get attached to the label, but so that you can come into wholeness within yourself and raise consciousness for humanity. And that's the whole purpose of this journey. There's no other purpose. That's why twin flames are sparking this for one another. And so I feel like it's very interchangeable, whether it gets sparked through like a catalyst or a false twin or through your twin flame. I think that there are twin flames out there. I think that there is the potential to come together with your twins and serve a joint mission. But it's sparked by a deep romantic connection. It feels romantic because it's like there's a love that's outside of yourself that's sparking it, but really that love is within yourself, and it's that you've yet to claim it or fill the void from within or come all the way into yourself. So then it provokes us by triggering things in us. You look into the mirror, you see the unhealed pieces of yourself, and then you begin a process of healing, at least for those of you who are the light workers, the empaths, those who are highly conscious and doing the active navigation of this journey, especially I think the divine feminine, many of the divine feminine, not all, but definitely a lot of you are, there's more consciousness on the side of the feminine, but certainly there's many masculine waking up along this journey and activating their ascension, activating their ascension and navigating their ascension actively. However, I think for the masculine, as I've shared before, it seems to come in a different form for many, where they're learning and ascending and epiphanies and, like having the realizations through the karmic lessons and much more through the dawnings that come to them, much less through like the studying and the watching the videos and the so it comes through in a different way. So anyhow, I wanted to read you a post that I made on social media today. If you haven't seen it, or if you have seen it, I apologize if it's redundant. But I'm talking about toxic relationships, and this is what I say. Toxic relationships are toxic because there's a lack of conscientiousness with the toxic person. Usually toxic people are unable to look in the mirror, the sacred mirror, the relationship mirror, of the relationship to see themselves or own responsibility. And they pair with those who assume the burden, who are overly conscientious, and who will give too much to make up for their lack of, right? Both have attracted one another because at the core, it is the same wound, a lack of self-worth and self-love, aka misalignment, fragmentation, or detachment from the divine whole being or higher self. So I'm going to say that again in simpler terms. Both have attracted one another because of the same core wound. Different circumstances, different upbringing, but same core wound. Now, different conditioning. One has gone to be highly conscientious. One has gone off to have no consciousness or conscientiousness. So, and there's varying degrees of that. We can go to no, to little, to some, right? And depending upon whether you're dealing with like a narcissist or just someone who's like a little bit toxic and might have some narc tendencies or whatever that is, it doesn't really matter. All we need to know is that there's one person who's taking on the burdens, who's overly conscientious, who's probably overgiving, giving too much in a scenario, not lining up with what they deserve, and that there's another person who is, you know, inflicting the toxic behaviors, unable to look at themselves and unable to give all of themselves. And, for most part, they give crumbs, right? Or they manipulate to get what they need. And all of those, for all of those reasons, it's a toxic relationship. So I move on to say that, so we said both have attracted one another because at the core it's the same wound, yada, yada, yada. Then I move on to say, the good part is that eventually when the more conscientious or conscious one gets fed up with the treatment that does not align with their higher self, they will finally do the work to come all the way home to him or herself. So that's when you guys break from the toxic partners, the toxic karmic relationships, or even the false twins, and you go, this isn't enough for me. I'm not, and even your twin flames that, you know, you're saying, I need to separate from you to come into alignment. To come into alignment with myself, I need to find that alignment within myself. And there's something within me that's caused me to line up with this lack of, this not the way I want to be treated, or the less than what I deserve. Okay, so that's for the one, usually the empath, or the one that's, you know, more conscientious, which means more self-aware. And of a higher consciousness, which means, you know, ready to elevate, ready to go beyond in their soul's evolution and to uplift awareness and consciousness in society. So the trouble is that the unconscious or less conscious or the lacking conscientiousness one will not do the work on him or herself by looking into the mirror, and will continue to project and deflect and build further ego defenses that prevent them from looking into the mirror, healing, and ascending. So, you know, you've probably watched some of my narc videos, and that's often, you know, what it feels like. It feels like there is a mirror. I always say there's like a mirror attached to the toxic person or the narcissist, but they just can't turn and look at it, even though it's right there. And instead, they use that mirror to project and deflect onto you. And so I think where there's this sense of connection or sense of deep love or whatever that is, I think the overly conscientious person wants to help or heal or fix that person, or wants them to see the light so that they get validated from within themselves. But the truth is that the only person that can validate you is you. And that whenever you're needing love outside of yourself to that degree where you're willing to overstep your own boundaries and your own self-worth and your own values and morals, that's where you are out of alignment. You've got to come back into yourself. The important thing is when you recognize that the other person is unable to look at themselves, or maybe they can look at themselves a little, but they're not capable of making those changes to be in alignment for what you desire, that there will eventually become a split. You will separate. So when one starts to line up with their truth, when one starts to line up with their healing, when one starts to line up with healing that wound from within and saying, I deserve more, I'm worthy of more. Once you line up with that energetically, you cannot physically hold space with the other person because you are no longer a vibrational energetic match. So where your wounds were matching, where you could hold space with one another and do the dance, do the triggers, and do the runner chaser, and do all of that, that goes away. That means there's call for separation, and or a breakup, or an ending, or maybe a complete close of the soul contract that was there in place, or why you came together to begin with. mission served. I'm coming into alignment with myself. Now I get that gift. I'm no longer going to stand in front of you and play out this toxic relationship. And when toxic people leave us, it is the biggest compliment that can be paid to you. Because when they choose to leave you, it's because you're no longer a vibrational match. You're no longer a good feed for their manipulation. You're no longer a good feed for their ego. You're no longer a good supply for them. You're no longer wounded enough to stay in that lower vibrational energy. So you're ready to elevate. So if they leave you, as painful as that may feel, it is in essence a gift. I'll continue reading this. So what will happen is, it says, they'll have trouble looking at themselves, they'll deflect, and they'll continue to perpetuate the same cycles, and we'll need to find others who are a vibrational match to play this out with. So if you see someone who you've had toxic dealings with, go quickly move on to the next person. Don't be so quick to feel envious or jealous, and recognize that if you do, those are just the unhealed pieces of you, because the truth is like that person's going to get the same treatment. And the reason why they're able to stand in front of them is because they've got their blinders on, or they're feeling low self-esteem. They're not in alignment with their self-love, and so they are a vibrational match. And so often when a soul is not ready to see or elevate in consciousness, they will just keep cycling through society, just perpetuating these cycles, okay? And so they'll find the next victim, and the next, and the next, and the next, and it will always be a lower vibrational match, or someone who has the same wound that they can play this behavior out with for a period of time at least. So remember, it's not your job to fix others. When somebody who is toxic leaves you, as I said before, or you choose to leave them, it is because you are no longer a good feed or good fit. You are not a vibrational match for their toxicity any longer. Esteem this and take it as a compliment. Focus on what you can improve, which is yourself. Utilize the sacred reflection to see your own triggers and utilize those triggers as a roadmap for your healing. And so wherever you get triggered, whether it's, the toxic person moved on and you're feeling jealous, it's like that trigger is a cue to your healing. It's where you stood in front of the behaviors that weren't in alignment with what you really deserve or what you really desire, or weren't in alignment with your own morals and values. That's a trigger. It's a pattern. It's a behavior that is a cue or indicator of where you need to heal. So when we look at, even any sort of a separation, breakup, ending, close of a soul contract, remember, like, it's all in divine order, whether it's your twin or your false twin or a karmic partner, like, it is helping your soul to evolve. And this whole journey, and the whole reason why you're here and identifying with the term, is because you are here to raise consciousness. And where that begins is within you. You've got to raise consciousness within yourself and come back to your own divinity and come back to your own wholeness before you can be that light and really be the advocate for raising consciousness, or the energetic up-leveler for others. It doesn't mean you have to be completely healed to work with others. It just means that you have to be doing the work and ready to ascend. And when we cling on to relationships that are, are we attached to, right, through our fear, through our wounding, through our programming, we will keep ourselves stuck. We'll only be able to, we'll plateau. We won't be able to get to the next level on our own ascension rung. So I think a lot of you recently let go of some stuff, or you're letting go of some stuff. Some of you are still in the act of doing that, and that's in progress. And that's a good thing, because what that's saying is, I can no longer continue to hold space for this person. I'm ready to ascend. So when you're ready to ascend, make sure you find the tools, that you have the tools to do that inner work. That, if it's that you need to do more inner child work, or more healing the core wounds, or understanding the core wounds, or if it's that you need to really know how to practice alignment, and you need to really, when I work in soul coaching, we blank slate the value system. We blank slate the self-worth. And what does that mean? That means we like wipe it clean and we go, okay, now what would you put in as your values and morals? Now, what do you desire? What do you deserve? Because often we have ideals and outdated morals, values, and like ideals of our worth that we probably haven't checked in with ever or in years. And so when you give yourself permission to self-discover after you've done the healing work, because the healing work at the root is the most important, because that gives you the awareness, the light that you can bring forth from the darkness to repattern. And so when you do the self-discovery work and you rebuild yourself, your connection to your divinity, the who you want to be in this lifetime, the who you feel you could be, that you're building it in such a way that you're bringing in your shadow to it, that you're integrating. So if you're just doing the practicing yourself self-discovery and you haven't paid attention to where that shadow is, or you don't really know where it comes from, you're not really going to advance the way that you want to. And I'm going to be very frank about that. That baseline core root healing is the most important, because it's what's going to make the alignment stuff, the practicing you, the self-discovery, the repatterning, the stepping into your full potential, it's going to make it stick. Okay, and all it is awareness that you bring forth. I mean, there's probably layers of emotional healing that you'll do in that process, but you're bringing awareness forth for the integration. So, and when you do that, you bring that awareness forth, that understanding, that awareness, that healing that's already taken place, and you practice alignment in a new way. Guess what? Your point of attraction changes. You start attracting everything you deserve. You start attracting greater abundance. You start being a really powerful manifester. You come into your power. You attract healthier relationships because your whole point of attraction changed. Now you're aligned with your worth. Now you're aligned with your divinity. Now your life becomes awesome. And this can happen for anyone along this journey. You just really need to look at what tools don't I have? Where do I need to go deeper with myself? And why am I avoiding it? And there's many ways, God bless this client. As I mentioned thank you for, I'm going to make a general mention, but I had a client a few hours ago who was just wonderful. And I felt she had a great connection to shamanic work. And I said, hey, if you don't want to do this work with me, the soul coaching, or take the classes on Vibe Up, the level 1, the root stuff, the level 2, the alignment stuff, the level 3, the manifestation, then you know what? I feel like you have a connection to shamanism. Go do it through shamanic work, shamanic journeying. That covers all the same stuff that I cover, and maybe you're more connected to it, right? Shamanic journeying takes you through ancestral work. It's the root of the fear, which is what we do on Vibe Up, which is what we do in my intensive program, which is what we do in soul coaching. You go to the root of the fear, which is your inner child wounding, your ancestral programming, societal programming too, and also your past life karma that you bring in, as well as your ancestral imbalances. So shamanic work, shamanic journeying does all of those things as well. So that's another way that you can, it's about finding what resonates for you. Some people like a much more practical approach. They want the actual literal tools in their toolbox. Some people do both. My methods are more progressive. They're more like cut right to it, give you the tools that you need, and we make pretty rapid progress. Whereas journeying too, allows it to sort of unfold. It also helps you develop your sense of your psychic gifts and your ability to go into higher realms of consciousness. I highly recommend it. But you've got to be doing some methodology that brings you to the root before you start practicing the alignment in the hopes to fully repattern and change your point of attraction. For those of you that this doesn't apply to, I'm sure you'll just stop watching this video, or maybe you'll say, oh yeah, I've already been there. I've already crossed the bridge. Oh, I'm on the other side of it. I'm really feeling like I'm in my full potential. And I have so many clients that are there, that are just living their mission. And, does that mean that they're totally healed? Are we ever completely healed? No, there's always layers. But it does mean that so much has been cleared so that they can ascend and get on their purpose and be in alignment with their power and attract healthier relationships. And for those of you who are just in twin flame separations and you're still like really sure like the twin flame's going to come back in and they're going to raise their consciousness too, and that's what your soul contract is, I'm not here to make you doubt that. I'm just here to let you know, like, in order for the twin flame to come back and show up differently, you'll have had to elevate into yourself. And so if you're wondering why your separation's ongoing, it's like kind of like the state of my union address last night. And that was meant to be humorous and cute and funny in some way because the president was giving a State of the Union address. But what I was essentially asking everyone is, where are you at in your union with yourself? You know, where are you at in that process of uniting with yourself? Because therein it lies your answers to when you're going to come into complete joy and happiness, when you're going to step all the way into your power, when you're going to have the potential to unite with your twin. And in that alignment, you won't feel tormented. You won't feel like you need something outside of yourself, or you have to get sucked into these toxic cycles with someone, or that you need to know what's going to happen with your twin flame, or you need the answers now, or you need it to happen right now. You'll be surrendered. And the surrender comes from shifting from fear to love and into a state of trust. And that's all that it is. We've got to go to the root first and then work through it that way. So, I don't know. I think I jumped around a bit, but I think there's so many people that watch this in different phases of the journey. But I work with hundreds of twin flames, and I know that most that I encounter have at some point let go of a toxic relationship in order to advance in their own journey, or toxic patterns that they've engaged with to come all the way into themselves. And no one is really exempt from this. It's a part of your it's part of raising consciousness. Is, you know, we are highly sentient beings, meaning we are highly feeling beings. We have lots of thoughts. We have lots of thoughts that, you know, they come into physical form in our bodies. We experience our thoughts through feeling, right? And because we are highly sentient beings and we feel so much and there's so many emotions, and especially with empaths and with light workers and people that are tapped into other people's energies, highly sensitive people, I mean, this can be like a continuous stream of ups and downs and moods and highs and lows. And this journey can be, you know, and it doesn't have to be, though. I think that when you come all the way into yourself, you learn how to manage your emotions so much better. I know for me that when I reached a certain level in my own consciousness, my emotions stopped ruling me and I started ruling my emotions and my thoughts. I get to pick, I get to choose what I think, I get to choose what I want to manifest. And when things start going the wrong way for me, or the ship seems to be sinking, I can bring it right back up. I'm confident in my power to do that. I can turn my energy around at any given time. If I come out of surrender, I can get myself into it. Those things I'm sure of. Those things I've mastered. Doesn't mean I don't come out of surrender. Doesn't mean I don't have days that feel like a sinking ship. But the difference is that I have the tools in my toolbox and I'm connected with my inner power enough that I can turn the ship around. I can pull it up. I can elevate. I can make things great. I can go from a dip to making it wildly abundant. And then the better you get at sustaining alignment, the less dips and lows that you will have, because the less and less you will come out of it. And it's joyous. It's not tormenting. Any of you who feel tormented by a relationship or a connection, it's because there's levels of fear, lines of energy that are rooted in fear that are holding you in that stuck patterns, you know, attached to the doubt or the torment or the sadness or the pain or whatever that is. And it doesn't have to be that way. So I'll leave you with that. If you want to work with me, you can check out my services on spiritualmaterialgirl.com. I hope that's been helpful. I love you guys, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.